Therefore, observe the words of this covenant and obey them, so that you can make everything you do prosper.
Amen. 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 This is a cool picture, like an oil painting. When you come in, somebody's Kitabo? Kitabo? All right. I'm getting better at my Hebrew. You hear that? You hear that accent? Kitabo. Yeah, it looks good up here. Huh? That's what I'm thinking. Deuteronomy 26. I was amazed that after they gave he says when they entered the land, um, they were given their tithe and they were to give this speech. My father was this, we came from here, and this is what you did for us. I thought that was amazing that he would actually scribe out what he wanted them to say. I want to go chapter by chapter and take one point, and it all seems to come around one idea that I want to talk about here. And that's the idea that you see on the back of greeting cards a lot of times. It says, "Forget me not." And 5 through 10 it says, "And you shall make response before Yahweh your God. A wandering Aramean was my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there. Through a number, we became a great nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians treated us harshly, humiliated us, laid hard labors on us. Then we cried out to Yahweh, God our fathers, and Yahweh heard our voices, our affliction, our toil and oppression, and Yahweh brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with great deeds of terror, with signs of wonders. And he brought us into this place and gave us this land, a land full of milk and honey." I want to pick apart this interest because I thought this so interesting that he says, you need to say this. Why would he have them say this? A wandering Aramean father. And he went down, like you're telling the story again. What could be the reasoning? See, I'm always after Yahweh's mind. Why? That seems so scripted. It seems so bounded. It seems so boxed in. You get my idea. Why have this that I need to recite?
Memory, no repetition.
Memory.
So repeat it,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets into your memory, and then into your heart.
Okay, good. Cool. Any other thoughts?
The third and fourth generation, and they weren't there when you experienced that. And so this is to remind them, this is a yearly thing. And so when they say it, it's like, why? Father, grandfather, why do we say that? And then they will enlighten them what happened during that time.
Wow, good point. Good point. It reminds me of, I think it's a Passover, right, where the children at some point would ask, is it Passover?
Yes.
Why are we, and isn't Yahweh really concerned about generations getting his law? He's like, because I forgot about that. That we have a whole new set of people who don't know the story. And all of us in here right now are operating out of a story. We've told ourselves that it's true for us. This is who I am. This is where I come from. This is my mom and dad. I am such a person. How you interpret the world is very powerful. Some people go through life interpreting the world as a victim. Everything happens to me. Some people go through the world as a victor. Everything happens for me. We have how you think about your life, same situations will dictate the quality of life you have. And it's hard to get someone out of that mindset. It's hard to rewrite someone's internal story. I listen to studies, I listen to a lot of stuff, podcasts, and read a lot of material on people. But your subconscious, we operate out of so much of that we don't realize. I like what you said about remembering. Do you remember where you came from? Do you remember they treated us harshly? We weren't there. What are you talking about? Do you remember that Yahweh brought us out of Egypt? I suggest to you, as I go through the scriptures, one of the qualities that's very important to Yahweh is being able to remember. What is the Hebrew understanding of remember? Forgive me not. Because we know from the Hebrew language, they don't deal in abstracts. They deal more with concrete, stuff you can feel, touch, and handle. What's the more Hebrew mindset of remember? What's the Hebrew word for remember? I'm still learning, so I'm glad I'm surrounded by Hebrew experts here. You asking me, I'm asking you. I'm just learning. You can tell me. Zakor? Zakor? All right, so I got the verb one, and we got a noun one. I think it's important because where I'm coming from is in the Old Testament. They talk about remember, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget.
Brandon, did you hear what Joel said?
He says Zakor.
About remembering the Sabbath.
Remember that word is used right there? Come on, man. Why don't you come teach this today? Which one?
The whole thing from the liturgy.
Oh, very good. It's kind of small. Can you see that? Hey, you get 100 today. Good job, man. Language classes. One of these is the right one. I guess it's a different variance of it. So I'm learning. Be patient with me. But one of those I'm sure is right. Actually, all of them are right. But I don't know different variants. I don't know. So this is the verb tense of zakor. Zakor. This is a verb, and it's translated remember 172 times. When you think about remembering, birthdays are a big deal. If someone remembers, if you had to remember a loved one's birthday, how do you remember their birthday? August 19th. That's your birthday. I remember that. Or we're going to remember your birthday by making you a cake and buying you some gifts. Remembrance. So Olivia just had a birthday, and we wanted to remember her birthday. My wife made her a cake in remembrance of her birthday. One of the things I found interesting as I studied out Zokar, I can't say it, but I understand it a little bit better. Zakar is the Hebrew idea of Zakar is like this in the following. In the Old Testament, to Zakar is not merely to rifle through some files in your head. 2 plus 2 is 4. Columbus cell 1492. The equation to that is y equals mx plus b. That's not the Zakar that we spoke of. It took you a while to remember your Bible, man. I
just wish the Bible would remember me.
Which brings me to my point. You don't want to come to my class with what I'm teaching. You're like, okay, I'm just going to interrupt you. I always put people on the spot. You got a word for us today? Come on in here. So Zakar is not really to go through some things in your head. Like, oh, yeah. Factual, your birthday is August 21st. I remember. In the Hebrew idea of remembering, to Zakar is to employ your hands, your feet, your lips, and engage in some particular action of that remembrance. It's not just, the Greek mindset deals a lot with abstractions of mercy, grace, things but the Hebrew mindset literally has to do with concrete things. Did you remember Sabbath? Oh, yes, on Saturday. No. Did you remember Sabbath? To keep it? We had to put that in there for us. But in the Hebrew mindset, if you remember Sabbath, you did what? You kept it. It wasn't no did you remember to keep? No, did you remember it? Did you remember Yom Teruah? Did you remember your mom's birthday? Oh, yeah, it's on January. No. Did you remember?
Do something about it.
Yeah. Where, let me see your remembrance. That's what I love about the Hebrew language. And belief, do you believe? Oh, yeah. No. Let me see it. Where is your belief? Well, let me see the actions that show your belief. And we know Jane. So, as I talk about remembrance a little bit today, we need to remember in the Hebrew mindset, it literally means that you're doing something to show that out. Now, if you're skeptical a little bit, let's go to some passages that use that. In Genesis 8, You remember the one with Noah, but God remembered Noah and all the beasts. Look at the word they use, same one, right? Zakar. All the livestock that were with him. And because he remembered them, what did he do? I forgot what the scripture was. I meant to copy it. I thought I had the whole thing here. He remembered all of them, and he started to bring the water down. Yeah, he saved them. It says, because he remembered them, the waters began to subside. He's like, I'm going to do something now. He's not like, oh, yeah, Noah's there. Yeah, Noah was there. I forgot about you. I remember now. So his remembrance caused him to do something. That's the kind of, he's like, I remembered you. Another one we can remember is in Genesis 40. Joseph was interpreting dreams. He says, only remember me when it's well with you. And please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh and so get me out of this house. He says, your remembrance should get me out. Your remembrance shouldn't be like, oh, yeah, I got it. He says, no, please don't forget me. Remember me. So your remembrance in the Hebrew mindset is translated to you doing something, to you having some action, which is really exciting and deep for me when I studied that. I'm like, man, I can't just keep claiming I believe or I remember something. If you remember, let me see your remembrance.
Brenda, that brings me to mind what the thief said on the cross, remember me? And what did he do? What did he do? He told him right then and there to catch me. Today
you will be with me in paradise. Doesn't it add another layer when you can get that depth? Like, ooh, hold on, let me go back through and remember where all the remembers are and see what that means. Because it means I need to do something. Matter of fact, often, I don't know why I thought about this, when I'm praying for somebody, as soon as I start praying for them, I can't help but to want to do something. Like, what can I do in that part? Like, I'm praying for you, but is there anything I can do, too, instead of just me praying and having you in my mind? To understand the power of remember, let's look at the opposite. How powerful is it to remember? Sometimes, in order to make a point very clear, you draw its contrast. Like the words you see on this board. In order to make these words stand out really clearly, I put a black background so you can see the white words. It's a contrast. So to understand remember, let's see what the effect is of forgetting. What is the impact of forgetting? What happens when we forget? There's a scripture that I think about a lot when it comes to this. In 2 Peter. For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, self-control with steadfastness, steadfastness with godliness, godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection love. I always skim through that pretty fast. I bet that's a real good study somewhere though.
It is.
I bet it is.
It is.
For if these qualities are yours and are increasing, ooh, another good study. Because we just like to get it and stop. He's like, no, if you got this and they're increasing, they keep you from being what? Ineffective or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. For whoever lacks these qualities is nearsighted, that is so nearsighted that he is blind, having forgotten that he was cleansed from past sins. Therefore, brothers, be all the more diligent to confirm your calling and election. For if you practice these qualities, you will never fall. For in this way, there will be richly provided for you an entrance into the eternal kingdom of our Lord, Savior Jesus Christ. What happens when we become blind and forget? He says, you must have missed it. See, when you forgot that you were cleansed from past sins, my father was an Arabian. We went to Egypt, and it was hard. You forgot? When you forget that, Peter says there are some things that tend to happen. You get nearsighted and blind and forget that you've been cleansed from your past sins. Have you ever been there before? When you forgot? I have. And I know I've been there because I find myself surrounded by sin. I find myself in habits that don't promote godliness and his righteousness. Oh, I know I have, because my actions told me so. Now, the Bible that I was reading, I can still read it. The words that I can still say it, but my actions were in the throes of things that had nothing. He says, no, you forgot. He says, you should have these things in increasing measure. Where did you forget? If you become stagnant in some of these, and like, okay, my love is good. I won't run no more my love. This whole love your enemy thing, I can never. I got my family, my mom, and but you trying to push me too much. I'm good. Like if you're trying to push And you don't want to, you get stagnant and you become nearsighted and blind and forget. Peter continues, ironically, after I found a passage I kept reading, therefore I intend always to remind you of these qualities. How many people like to be reminded? There's two words that I've learned to associate with pride after someone hears some instruction. And it sounds like this. I know. Don't forget to go pick that up. I know. Hey, remember you got to. I know. Why can't the person just say, okay? I appreciate the reminder. Thank you. And I've learned that for myself because I heard that was me saying it. I'm so bothered. I'm so afraid that this person's going to think that I don't know. That I got to tell them, no, I know. I got it. Go ahead.
An example. Say perhaps you forget your wife's birthday. And then she reminds you. And you can say, man, I'm never going to do that for you. So, think about this with God too, you know. God says, you forgot something. You forgot one of my mitzvah. You forgot to observe the Sabbath. You forgot to come to a holy feast. You just did your thing. And is he going to remind you? Yes. Are you going to remember next time? Well, you better, because the reminders are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, we're going to fall into the curses here. Mm-hmm. We come into that.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to be reminded, though, because people remind you, like, of the birthday. I knew your birthday was that day. And it feels so belittling. It feels so condescending. To tell me something, I already know. If you've been around the Bible a long time, oh yeah, you got the I know. You're like, I know that scripture. I know that story. How many Torah portions have we done? I know. But Peter yet says, therefore I intend always to remind you of these qualities. What we know about love. We know about brotherly kindness. What are you doing over and over and over? Something that Yahweh and Peter knows that maybe we forget. You better be reminded. Now, if God made us, he knows that we need reminders. And now I'm going back to that passage again where he says, I need you to say this. Your father was an Aramean. Your mother was a Hittite. You can't. I know how I made you. Remember? Though you know them and are well established in them, I still going to remind you. That's sometimes the most painful. Teach me something new. I want something new. And that's what our generation always wants. Give me something new and fresh. Man, I tell you, the Bible's living and active. It's fresh all the time. Boy, let me tell you. I always remember that when I read the scriptures to somebody who wasn't a Bible believer. And I showed them from the Bible how the Bible is all scripture is God breathed and used for teaching, correcting, and reading. You know what they said? They forgot the fact that they dismissed the Bible as a source of power, and they were standing in awe of the power of his words. You forgot that see, all he could have said was, I don't believe that. But he's heard those words, he's like, whoa. See, this living and active. It's not like your newspaper that's gone yesterday. It's not like our magazines. Yesterday's news is yesterday. It does us no good today for yesterday's news. But the Bible, the Word of God, in more particular, very powerful. I think it's right, as long as I'm in this body, to stir you up by way of reminder. I'm going to keep stirring you and stirring you up, because it does stir you up. It gets your pride going sometimes. I already know that. And you're never at the same place in life that you were the day before. Some of us are, all of us are at least older than what you were when you heard that scripture the first time. You got more experience. Your kids are older. You have more kids. You may get married. You may have a new job. You may have moved. Everything's different now. So that same scripture totally means something else. You're in a different place spiritually. Since I know that putting off of my body will be soon as our Lord Jesus Christ made clear to me, and I will make every effort so that after my departure you may be able at this time to recall all these things. Peter's going to make it his life work. He said, I'm going to make it my life work to just keep doing this. When I'm dead, all you keep hearing is his word. Remember where you came from. Now, I know what you're thinking. I ended a preposition and sentence with a preposition. I try not to do it. I'm sorry. That's the academia in me. Deuteronomy 26:5 saying, you shall make response for Yahweh. And one of the Arab men and my father, and he went down into Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and there became a great nation, mighty and populous. What is that part? Why do you have us say that part? We started out saying,
to remind you where they came from. I mean, there was just one wandering Aramean, but Yahweh made them come to a great nation.
You weren't nobody. Like, your dad was an Arab. Your mom was I think he said your mom was no, it's not the past, it's another one. He says, you were one, and I made you into a great nation. When you have to do that, my wife and I have this little paper that we try to read every day. It says affirmations about who we are and what we believe. I love God. I love my wife with all my heart. I do, just these things. And when you say stuff like this, remind you, man, I came from, I don't care how big you get, don't forget. You came from, this is where your beginnings were. And the Egyptians, remember the pain? Some of us have been around the Bible a long time and got into a comfortable place. Remember the pain, though. Before you fully committed, and the stuff, and remember the addictions, remember the hard times, remember the stuff that you went through. He says that part of here, I want you to remember, and the Egyptians treated us harshly and humiliated us and laid on us hard labor. Don't forget that. And it's easy to forget this kind of stuff. Like after years, especially for a generation that never felt the whip on their back. A generation that never felt the pain in our stomach. A generation who's always had a land flowing with milk and honey. What are you talking about? How many people will you see who are great, and I said this before, but their children don't get it. Because they don't understand mama went through it to get there. And what mama went through made mama strong. You don't understand that. And mama paved the way for you so you can walk, but I had to climb. So I need you to remember what mama went through and what what Papa Joe went through, what we went. We need to go all the way back here and say, nah, we went through some stuff. Our Egypt, we went through too.
It reminds me of, you know how you tell your kids a little story? They say, man, it's hard walking a couple of blocks to school. And you say, well, when I was your age, I walked 10 miles in mud and snow and sleet. But you know what? Because the kids take it to heart because they didn't experience what you experienced. Exactly. They don't know the hard times. They brought them where they are today. Right. And so we tend to forget.
Yes.
I mean, I can't forget. I mean, I forget, everybody gets comfortable when I say, when I think of the things that Yahweh has done, I just thank you because I am grateful for the things he's gotten through. Yeah. And I can never, no matter how much I study, no matter how much I pray, no matter how much good I do, no matter how long I live, I will never be able to repay. But our children didn't go through the things we had to go through. The children of the faith did not go through, but the older ones have gone through. And that's why this is a good thing to remember where you came from. Remember not just where you're going. And you also, there are two things, there's a twofold thing. Remember where you're coming from, but remember where you're going. Amen. Because if you forget where you're coming from, you're not going to appreciate where you're at. But if you don't act the right way now where you're at, you're going to forget. If you forget where you're going, this is not going to matter. You're not going to behave and walk in a way that's going to take you to your goal, to where you're going. Yeah. See, those are things that we have to remember where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going. Yeah. So it makes it worthwhile. It doesn't even compare. The glory doesn't even compare. The hurt doesn't compare to the glory that we're getting.
Amen. So, and that's the power of forgetting, because in that spirit, in that state that you're in, as you think about where you've been, it's hard to sin. It's hard to be unforgiving to another brother or sister. When you remember, like, Now, I'm going to talk about Egyptians, but we know that that's a representation of our sin, our time when we're in sin. Now, we're all sitting up here in our right minds, dressed well, and nobody's yelling and cussing each other out. That's a good thing. But there used to be a time when we weren't so in our right minds, and we weren't so at peace. And if we forget that, we start to get on a horse that is too high for us. And I've forgotten that sometimes. I've forgotten, like, look, who are you? What you have I given you? You've been through a tough time. So I'm taking it slow right here because I'm trying to help you slide into a reflection of where you've been. Paul kept it in front of him, didn't he? He always reminded us that, look, dude, I was the worst. His sin was always before him. David prayed in his prayer. He says, may my sin always be before me. I don't want to ever forget what I've done. Not in the sense of I'm going to punish myself, but it's humbling to know where I've come from. And Ephesians says, you were dead in your trespasses. By nature, children of wrath like the rest of mankind. Romans says, for when you were slaves of sin, you were free in regard to righteousness. But what fruit were you getting at the time? Think about that question, right? What fruit were you getting at the time from the things which you are now ashamed? In that moment, things that felt good and made sense, it's embarrassing now. I can't tell you how many times at 36 now, I sit by myself sometimes in my classroom or at home, and I think back randomly. Does that happen to you? I think back randomly to when I was 16, to when I was 20-something. I'm like, why did I do that? I bowed my head in shame. And I was over 10, 15, 20 years ago. But at that time, I was not ashamed. It made sense. I think it's important that we have a time. That's why he's going through it. Do you remember that you were treated harshly and humiliated? You remember that time? That was not a fun time. For the end of those things were death. And we watch young people revel in things that we know only lead to death and pain. It's, you pay for it on television. It's everyone like, dude, that only is painful. One day that catches up with you. So let's remember that. And I like this part. Remember how Yahweh brought you out? One of my favorite conjunctions in the Bible is but God. This is going to, but God. You remember that time? You remember your conversion story? You remember what it was that was so powerful? Now, what am I doing now? I'm just trying to slow down this part that he says recite and say, what is he trying to get at? Remember that? Then we cried out to God our Father, and Yahweh heard our voice and saw our affliction. He saw your toil. He saw your oppression, and Yahweh brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and outstretched arm, with great deeds of terror, with signs and wonders. Signs and wonders. It was like, wow, you remember that time, man? Light and day. People are like, wow, you different. Wow, this is amazing. Things that happen. Wow, stuff is opening up. I hope you can remember an experience like that. Because in order to, if you're connecting all these things he said to say, it brings you to a different place. Ezekiel, your origin and your birth are the Canaanites. Your father was Amorite. That's why I keep saying it, because I kept calling this one. And as for your birth, on the day you were born, your cord was not cut. You remember that. Nor were you washed with water to cleanse you, nor rubbed with salt, nor wrapped with swaddling clothes. No eye pitied you. This is a baby he's talking about. I can't even begin to think of a child like this. No eye pitied you to do any of the following, any of these things to you out of compassion for you, but you were cast out in the open field, not uncut, unclean, and the open exposed, for you are abhorred, which means you are hated on the day you were born. And when I pass by you, oh, here he is. Woo! Somebody needs to make a song out of this. But when I pass by you, you see the love story starting? And saw you wallowing in your blood, I said to you, in your blood. While you were still in your blood, I said to you, live. See, unlike most people who walk by you and said that I'm done with you, I can't do nothing else with you, I ain't fooling with that no more. While he said, while you still in this, I said, live. I said to you in your blood, live. I had to recheck this. I thought I copied this wrong, but he did say it twice. He said, no, I said to you.
It's when you start remembering, oh, I did this 16 years ago, or you go, oh, by your blood, it's forgotten.
Amen. And you got to keep reminding yourself of that.
By your blood. Then I think of Paul when he says, I have that thorn in my side, but my grace is sufficient. And can you imagine what he went through all the torture and everything that he did, and he brings back a reflection of what he did?
Mm-hmm.
What did I do?
Yeah.
Who did I torture?
Yes. And that's why we need these times. Because we need to remember. If I don't have these times, I forget that, oh, I'm good. Like, no. Every Sabbath, I get to remind myself. Every time I get in my word, I can remind myself. I made you flourish like a plant of field, and you grew up, became tall, and arrived at full adornment. Your breasts were forming, your hair had grown, yet you were naked and bare. I took care of you in your blood. I think I have this somewhere else, but I want to make sure I don't miss this. There's another scripture that says, while you were still sinners. I'm holding back tears thinking about this one. Because I've been in situations, guys, where I've had someone be so unnice to me. So I'm like, how can I show that same love? He says, no, while you was just like this towards me, while you were an enemy, how can I wrap my arms around? How can I say a good? While you were sinners, I died for you. At the worst of your time, I died for you. While you was in your blood, I died for you. So don't act like you got some nice. You all no. In your worst of time, all of us been here. In your worst of time, he said, "I got you." And here's the beautiful story. It keeps going. It's not a one-off thing. Like, hey, we just did it. He's still doing it right now, isn't he? He's still saving. He's still taking you out of that situation. Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh. 27. Write it down. This is the part that stood out to me is write it down. And he says, when you go into the cross of Jordan, you shall write on them, the plaster stones, all the words of this law. When you cross over to the land, Yahweh, your God, is giving you a land full of milk and honey, as Yahweh, the God of your father, has promised you. And when you have crossed over the Jordan, you shall set up these stones concerning which I command you today on Mount Ebal. And you shall plaster them with plaster, and you shall write on them all the words of the law very plainly. You know, don't do that scribble scrabble thing that y'all be doing, Jeremy. You know that scribbly scrabble? You said very plainly. I'm missing that. I'm going to start sharing this with my students. Actually, I did share this with my students one time. She's like, I don't like to, I say, show your work. You know, and some people don't like showing your work. Show your work, let me see the steps. I do it in my head. I'm like, you got to show your work. I said, you know, God said write it down. You got to write it down. He said write it down. And she said that because I brought it up, and she's like, well, I didn't have time because I was at midweek of church. I was like, oh, great, I'm glad she brought that up. You know what God said. This was just like Friday. Exodus, Yahweh said to Moses, cut for yourselves 2 stones like the first one I'll write on the tablets. And Yahweh said to Moses, write these words, for in accordance with these words I have made a covenant with you. Why do you keep telling them to write stuff down? Don't forget. Did you know your brains are not made to remember? Your brains are not made to store large amounts of information.
I say friendly reminder. Put the word friendly in friendly.
Friendly reminder, yeah. No all caps, big red letters. No, just friendly. So, why write things down? Again, I read many studies on it, and I didn't want to take a lot of time on it. But your brain is not made to remember stuff. Matter of fact, a lot of our stress comes from trying to remember more than we're supposed to. We should be planning. We should be planning when we're going to do something. At 3 o'clock, I'm going to do this. At 4 o'clock, I'm going to do that. And here's such and such's phone number. If you have to remember all the phone numbers, if you have to remember all your schedule, if you have to remember all the promises you made, it's tough. But if you have some system where you can take it out of your head and put it on paper, what a great idea, Yahweh. Who thought of that? If you can put it on paper, so much easier. Your brain is not meant to remember large amounts of information. What is it made for? What is your brain made for?
Short-term memory.
Short-term memory. What? It's made to think.
It's a process.
Yeah, we're made to think. As long as you have clutter in there, You can't think. You know why? Because it's like that circus wheel. You know that wheel on the circus, that big one you sit on? The first wheel? It's like that. You put all your problems on the first wheel, and it just keeps popping up every two. Like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it just keeps coming up. And you feel stressed with 4 things going around over and over again. You're like, oh, yeah, I got to do that. I don't want to forget. What if I don't worry about it, I'm going to forget. If I don't. And you're stressed, but now you can't think. You can't be creative the way Yahweh made you to be because you just don't have a system for it. He said, no, you can't have a routine. I'm not going to do that. Just write that down. I almost brought some stones. I want to get some stones and everybody just, Yeah, I'm serious. Just get some stones, put them up in your house because you're going to forget. He said, I need you to do that for me.
I always, when I feel well, I can't think. I can't process. I can't concentrate, right? So when I'm feeling really bad with this stuff in my head, I said, well, I should put the Torah portion or study, but it stresses me out because I can't concentrate. I keep getting lost. I keep getting, so it just stresses me more. So it's just like, you have to give, to me, the Word of God deserves your full attention.
Yes.
And if I can't give it my full attention, I'm like, I should be listening to it.
Yeah.
But no, because it stresses me out because I keep losing my place. I keep my mind wanders or it hurts or, and so I'm like, I can't, because your mind has to be sharp whenever you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
Whenever you want to retain something. And I don't want to just read it. I can read it and read it and read it and read it, but I'm not going to retain it if I'm not processing it.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And the mind is the battlefield of the mind. The mind is the battlefield. Satan wants to invade it. And that's why you take every thought captive to the reason.
I love that. If you take every thought captive, because our enemy's the chief of chaos. So if I can get you in a state of chaos where you just feel like I just got so much going on. I got this, I got that. He's like, good. That's where I want you. You can't think. You can't process.
It's when you go try to pray and you try to put everything off and you just close your eyes and you try to concentrate to pray, but you can feel that inner chaos coming out. Yeah. Every thought, you're trying to focus, and every thought is coming out of you. What happened during the day? What happened yesterday? This thought, that thought, and you're really trying to get focused.
Yeah. And if I could, I want to give a practical that's helped me a lot. I take my planner with me. In my quiet times, that happens. And I'm not sure if it's an attack or if it's just me, my mind's just busy and stuff. But if you write those things down, because some of those things are really important that you don't want to forget. And I write them down and say, I'll visit with you later. But I just took captive that thought. We're going to deal with that later. But I can't do it right now. I forget. Right there. Okay, now I'm good. So I put all this stuff there, and I realize it's only 3 things that keep coming up. It's not a whole lot, but I'll deal with y'all after I finish this. Y'all ain't going nowhere. So this is one of the things I would do is just write it down. But this is big for Yahweh. Habakkuk, Yahweh answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. Write it down. Now, a lot of us are like, I'm good. I got you. I got the point. He's like, no, did you write it down? Write that down, please. So I don't know if I have a lot of note takers or who people are into this. What type of written memorials have you set up to help you remember? See, it was Yahweh's practice to do tablets. That was his idea. We didn't come up with that. It was his idea for people to get stones in their backs and take them and say, put these up in the camp where everybody can see them. Make it plain. What type of written memorials have you set up in your life that make it easy? See, 10 Commandments, 10 was pretty clear there. The big rocks, they were there for people to see. Or, can you remember a time where, what type of memorials do you have set up that help you do that? That you wrote and help you do that? That's it? Yeah. I wrote it right here on my heart. You got a memo?
And then she forgets where she puts her phone.
So may I encourage you sometime this week to see if you can find a way to have some written memorials. One of the things I did when I was young is I was early to the faith. I had notebook paper, and I would tape the paper. I would write the scripture and highlight keywords and tape it in the back from it because I didn't have a laminator. So it was my laminate. So I laminated it, and I just carried it around with me in my pocket. And then I also maybe 2 years ago, I took that same strip of paper and I made it thinner and I wrapped it around and taped it around my arm.
Oh.
So I had me a cheap bracelet with scriptures around it because I had a scripture I wanted to focus on for that week. We actually have taken rocks from vacation we've gone to and written on them. And we still have them. That was 9 years ago. We still have rocks that we've written on 9 years ago. So some of the ones you already have, they're in the form of pictures. We have them around our houses that says certain scriptures. They didn't have pictures. I bet that was pretty close, though. You know, you couldn't hang the rock on the tent, but you could put it in the middle of the camp. But those are good reminders. The point is not, the medium is not that important, but the idea of remembering is. 27, okay, anything else, 26 and 27? Because I know you mentioned a few things about curses, and I don't get into that a whole lot, so I want to make sure if there's something like you like want. I know this is not particularly on there, but I didn't want to skip anything you felt like you wanted to share on that.
On the curses. Okay, so we notice on the curses, all the people had to say what at the end? Amen. Yeah, so would it be. And so what God's impressing upon us here is, okay, I'm going to go circular around this. All those men who inherited land in the promised land, now of that first generation, how many of those men who were believers, redeemed and saved, how many of them inherited a plot of land in the promised land? Caleb. Caleb and Joshua. Okay? And so, but now the second generation, they learned from the first generation by seeing their mistakes. Okay? And they made some mistakes too, and some of the rebels had to be eliminated. In those last Baal, Peor, and a couple of things right there. So now they were functional. They listened to Moses, and Moses taught. They listened. When Moses was giving them instructions, and then later on Joshua, they listened to these instructions and knew they trusted them enough to follow them. They wouldn't stop, and they wouldn't give up. And so when the battle started, like I said before, Israel had to win every battle. They had no home base to go back to and repair and lick the wounds and resupply. The wilderness did not do that. Therefore, they had to win every battle, and many of the nations were many times bigger than they were. And so they absolutely had to follow Joshua, and Joshua absolutely had to follow the Lord. He had to be, he's on his knees and on his face a lot, praying to God, what do we do here? What do we do here? And so, but now they have gotten through. They have obeyed the mitzvah. They have obeyed the Lord. They have not defiled themselves, except that one. They have not defiled themselves. So they each get an equal plot of the land. Okay. The blessings are like that. Each person was blessed with an equal plot of the land. Okay? And it simply was they made it through. And they fought. And they weren't killed. And they weren't caught by the curses. Now we're going to go to the curses. So the curses are earned. You have to earn a curse. That seems very strange to us. How do I earn a curse? Well, sometimes, like you say, by not remembering and by not doing. And the two other things, add to it, you do it in joy and gladfulness. If you do it because it's your routine, if you do it because this is what is expected of me, or here's the one that really gets everybody, if you do it because it's tradition, okay, those are not correct ways to do God's law. And so therefore, he wants you to do it with joy and gladness, and come before him with singing and with joyful heart. As a matter of fact, in this little speech, he's going to say, I have put nothing away while mourning. I have put nothing away that has been set aside for the dead, i.e., offered to an idol. When I was feeling bad, I didn't put aside any of this third time to give to the Lord. I had to do it when I was in joy and gladness. Or what if you planted 2 or 3 seeds in your vineyard? You couldn't give any of that to the Lord. It was all. You defiled. And so, on the curses, you have to earn them. And so, God, that's why you had to say amen. You were realizing that's what you were doing. When you did these, most of these are secret sins. When you set up an idol and worship it in secret, you earned that curse. When you defile somebody in your family and defame them, you earn that curse. And so the reward of that, reward you're getting for defiling or going against God's mitzvah or not doing them correctly in the correct manner would be these curses.
Thank you.
And that's the same thing that I was thinking of in the scripture 28:47.
Which one?
28:47. Where it says, because you did not serve Yahweh with joy and gladness of heart, or the abundance of everything. Therefore you shall serve your enemies, whom Yahweh will fill against you with hunger and nakedness and need of everything, and he will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he has destroyed you. And you know, I don't know if you guys, we used to see like old, even Little House on the Prairie, and a lot of them old movies where there was a preacher or a really godly religious man, but the kids were so, they were having such a hard time because that person was so intent in the law of the religion, you know, of keeping everything, that he was so angry and bitter, and the kids knew no joy. He had no joy. He shared no joy with his kids. So it's telling you, we have to serve Yahweh with joy and gladness.
Yeah.
We can't be like, you know, you've
No,
heard
I
about,
have to go this Saturday.
or whatever it is in our lives. I mean, there's so many things in our lives that, Lord, I don't want to do it, but I might not. So I'll do everything. I will do it as unto you because I really don't like doing this.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we forget. Yes, we're keeping the guarding commandments, and we're trying to do the right things, but we're not happy. We're not content. We don't have the joy. And so it makes it harder to serve God that way.
Right.
And people that are watching you, that's what they're getting. They're not getting. It is a joy. Yeah, it's not a joy. You're telling me you live and have freedom in Christ, and you're the truth that set you free, but you're bound up in that.
Right.
You're so bound up and wired so tight that you're not even showing people what a joy it is to serve the Lord. Not just because He gives you, He's a provider, but because He brings you through these hard things.
Right.
Because even through the hard times, we know He is our God, our Redeemer, our provider, our advocate. He's our everything. So even when when we don't have enough to eat, we don't do anything. Have y'all got hungry yet? Have y'all starved yet? You know, I hate saying that. Oh Lord, I'm hungry. Oh Lord, I'm not starving. I'm just hungry.
Right.
Because we're not. He's not let us starve yet.
Amen.
So we got to remember, and this was a curse because they did not serve Him with joy and gladness. Same as what He said, but the thing is that we do that now.
Yeah. I love that because we can see it in some of the subtleties. Like when we go to work, what do we tell the people that we leave behind? I got to go to work.
Got to.
Yeah. So it's the difference between I got to and yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Like I got to eat.
You want to eat?
Usually you get to eat, but you got to work. And I think just those subtleties can reveal to the person hearing you, a loved one or children or whomever, your friends. Oh, I got to go to church today. Ooh, I don't want to go with you. I get to stay home while you got to go. So I think that's an important distinction. Are you doing this out of joy? Are you looking forward to it? You know, so many places talk about. I think that Isaiah 58 was talking about fasting. He's talking about doing with the life of spirit. So good stuff. It's funny I underlined that. I want to expound on that more. I'm glad you did though. Chapter 28. I want to close here and the promise of remembering. So this whole lesson has been about remembering. And when I started to look at everything, I'm like, oh, it seems like we need to make sure we remember. If you faithfully obey the voice of Yahweh your God, being careful to do all His commands that I command you, Yahweh your God will set you high above the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you. If you obey the voice of Yahweh your God, I would love for blessings to overtake me. Ooh, just blessings everywhere. It's just overwhelming me. But that's the promise. So he says you're going to be blessed. And I took the time to add some pictures with the words here because it's amazing when you think about the blessings that follow obedience. In the city, field, look at you. You're going to have more cattle. I know you only got 2 now, but wait. You're going to have more. But in the increase of your herds, like, of course we don't have animals, but whatever profit you are making, says I'm going to make that, I'm going to bless your profit. So that's great. Hey, your basket and kneading bowl, you're going in, you're going out. Victory of your enemies, holiness to himself, setting aside a people for himself. People of the earth shall respect you and see that you're Yahweh's. Prosperity. Lender to many nations. You're not a borrower. Head, not the tail. Everything you put your hands to, he blesses.
With a provision, right?
What's the provision?
Everything you put your hands to in Him.
So,
Not
yeah.
there, but for us, everything we do according to His will.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that He wants for us.
Right.
We put our hands to, not just what we feel like.
Yeah,
We can go.
So all of this is within this boundary. If you fully obey the voice of Yahweh, it has to be absolutely not. Like I did this, and you didn't bless it. Like no, you're listening to my voice. Voice of Yahweh. And obviously, this was a big passage. Just 28, talking about blessing and curses. And curses got a lot to talk about. And I could make some slides on this one, but it's pretty much just the opposite, plus some more things. So I can go back here and do the. If you do not obey, you won't be blessed in the city, the field. Everything else, the mass and the boat. You coming in, it's going to be problems. You going out, it's going to be problems. No victories. They're going to have victory over you. You will not be a holy people. You will be submitted to others. No prosperity. You'll be having to borrow this is your hand now. That's not your hand. This is your hand. You are this person, and you are not you're the tail, not the hand. Everything you touch is kind of messed up. And I hate to ask this question, but have you ever seen someone or met someone where that seems to be the case, where constantly having issues? One of the things that hurt me reading the curses is that you would not see the fruit of your labor. Your wife, no, not your wife. Some other man will have your wife. You built the house, somebody else is going to enjoy it. Oh, you got all these fruits from your field. No, somebody's going to come and eat it. Like, what am I doing? Everything, you got money in your pocket, you got a hole in it. Like, it's like, what is going on? And if you've ever met someone that can never, ever just get it on top, they can never, always behind. I always ask myself, I wonder, and I don't understand curses, but I wonder how this is affecting them. What nothing they do can come to, you can never get anywhere. Now, the other person in Yahweh, everything they do, they just like, man, I just applied for the job, and I didn't even call them already. I just thought, like, man, everything you're doing, I'm busting my butt over here, and you just kind of getting stuff. So that's the gist that I kept getting from seeing the curses and blessings without going too deep in there. But what else? Is there something else I'm missing that you want to share in 28? Curses and blessings.
I thought about the curses. You look at society today. You know, even in the city of Lubbock, you hear some. Did you hear about this? You look at the news and all the. You wonder why it's happening. You're thinking, why is this occurring? Why is that occurring? And then people ask themselves, why is this happening? You know, but it's like you're not following, or you're not doing, or you're not, the instructions that you should be following. It's your choice. You see that in society today. You're going like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you see the good things, you see the bad things.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Also, the curses can be used for us as believers as a warning. Now, i.e., if you start being, you're used to being blessed coming in and going out, and then all of a sudden, every time you go out, you're not blessed with the Lord. And you're going, what's going on here? And, pretty soon I'm not going to be blessed coming in too. And so it's a progression. So God's warning us. Moving back to the teaching on the rocks. You start at a small place, and then it would spread. If you start at your house, it would spread to your garment, and then it'd be on you. And so God will use it as a warning system too. Danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will Robinson. You need to look and see in your life what are you doing that is not in line with God's word, because it's not going to get better. It's not chance. It's not. Who's that guy in Little Africa who was baptized and like clothes coming out? He was anywhere he went, it was curse. I forgot what his name was. But probably he was a believer, and nobody wanted him to come around because generally the curses came with him. And so we have to be careful in that too. So get back to God's word. If you start as a believer, if you start having the curses, is the enemy oppressing you like he did David, like he did some of the other saints, or are you missing it somewhere? Are you supposed to be doing something and you put it out of your mind, and your subconscious is keeping it down, and you have to go to the Lord and say, reveal my heart, and do what you see the Lord doing. You'll never be wrong.
Remember, sin is always an entrance to the wrong spirit. And this is why you have to ask God to search your heart and let you see it. I think you do it every day, every morning. You should do that.
Amen.
And whatever He shows you, you should repent. And now's the time to repent.
Now is always a good time.
Always, yeah.
And to bring it to that Yeshua took the curses are not for us. If we're living in these, Yeshua took the curse upon himself when he hung on that tree. He paid for it. The curses are not for us. Now it says, therefore there is no condemnation for whom? For him or in Christ Jesus.
Right.
So we got to remember, we don't receive these curses because Yeshua died for us to be free from those curses. So we walk according to His will, that we can't incur these. He died.
Sure.
He took them upon
And I'm still trying to understand that, but one thing I do understand, because I mean, there is no condemnation, but I do understand that when you continue to make sinful choices,
that's different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's the thing, and I'll close because this is my last slide here. But the thing that I get from this is you can't compartmentalize it. You can't compartmentalize sin. You can't say, you know what, I'm really not doing good in this. Everything else is good. He says, no. In, out, field, work, everything is tainted. So when you identify, what is that scripture in James that says, for where you find selfish ambition, there you'll find every evil practice. It's like selfish ambition and evil. I forgot what it was. He says, you just got to find one thing, and it's just everywhere. So if I talk to somebody and I start picking up, I'm like, there's no fear of Yahweh there? I'm like, oh, I got you. Everything you do won't come to prosper. But you got a lot of money. You won't prosper, though. Trust me, you ain't going to prosper. But you got the suit, you got this, it's not going to work. I can promise you right. Huh?
You have 99% right and 1% wrong.
Well, it's so for Yahweh, it's like either you're here, you with me, or you're not with me. Man, my school's going great, but my marriage, man, I know I'm not being holy right there. He's like, no, trust me. You think it's all gonna spread out. So let's be attentive. Let's remember with actions, with our lips. If I could go back to that first slide, I would. That talked about remembering. Let's remember with. Let me see if I can find it. Remember with our hands, feet, and lips as we leave this place on the Sabbath and say, how can I show that I remember your law, remember your precepts, and I am delighted in them. I get to do them. When do we get to read the Bible? When do we get to love someone and forgive them? Thank you guys for letting me share. We'll close out here in prayer. And after I pray, Bruce, you, if you don't mind sharing the blessing. Yeah, after I pray. Holy Father Yahweh, we thank you. We praise you. I ask, Father, and beseech you that you be here in this place. Thank you for speaking to our spirits. Hallelujah. Yahweh, help us to walk in the remembrance of knowing your scriptures. Help us to write it down, not just in our hearts, but put it up in our homes, put it on our bodies. Whatever you got to do, say, look, I want to remember and see this. Let the people around us, Father, our loved ones, and those who don't know us, see that we are yours and belong to you, and that we may attract them to you. that we love you, we thank you, we praise you on this Sabbath for another day. Bless those who couldn't be here. Bless those who are sick and ailing. Yahweh, let your blessing be on them right now. Your sons and I pray. Amen.
No shame. I'm not saying no shame. Speak there wrong.